This is The Poet Speaks, a show all about oral tradition.
Hip-hop and cardboard boxes on the block, reggaeton, bandolero, soy yo, heavy metal, punk rock, and la junior high pop.
And what makes poetry so amazing, so incredible, is its absolute fascination and ability to change our lives. The oral tradition, the reason why we speak. This is The Poet Speaks. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Poet Speaks podcast. Now, our next guest is a Black mother who spends time with forests and waters on unceded lands of the Soki Nation. Her work strives to instigate action in service to world building, social change, and collaboration. Her poems live in Obsidian, literature and arts in the African Diaspora, MAYDAY, Torch, Rise Up Review, and other portals. She's a fellow of the Pink Door Writing Retreat, the Anaphora Arts Writing Residency, in Surreal Life, and the Abode Virtual Summer Retreat. She's the author of the chapbooks Everything Good is Dying and Moon Woman. Her first full-length poetry collection, Dreams for Earth, is forthcoming from Deep Vellum in 2025. Everyone, a big welcome to the Poet Speaks podcast, Fatima-Ayan Malika Hirsi. Fatima, how are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I am so grateful to be here and starting off my week with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Now, we're really, really excited to have you here. Now, first and foremost, tell us, where are you located in the world? Where are we speaking to you out from?
I am currently on stolen Sauk lands, also known as Souk, on Vancouver Island in Canada.
Nice. Very nice. All right. Tell us, how was the weather out there? How's it treating y'all? I know we're in the yo-yo months right now. We're fall, end of summer, but we're still not quite in the fall months. How's that weather treating you out there?
Yeah, fall is definitely rolling in hard. It is cloudy today. It is misting. My children are about to go on an adventure and they're putting on their layers. You can see the leaves starting to bronze and fall.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and dive into it. Like I said before we even began, I mean, I love your work and I love kind of how you instigate different identities into what you do, specifically as a writer. You know, I feel like you really bring your whole self to the table. Now, you describe yourself as a Black mother spending time with forest and water on the unceded lands of the Soki Nation. Now, please do correct me if I'm incorrectly pronouncing that. Now, how does that place both land and water? How does that shape your poetry and worldview?
Yeah, before living here on Sauk lands, I lived in Dallas, and I lived in the center of Dallas doing all the busy art things. And I was, thriving as an artist, but I realized after the fact I wasn't really hearing myself. I feel like I wasn't really getting to the core of who I am as a person and as an artist, because there were all of these external forces pulling me in so many different ways. And so living where I do now in this tiny town beside the ocean, being able to live so closely to the earth's rhythms, I feel like I can really hear myself and hear spirit and hear God and just feel the interconnectedness of all living things. And that closeness really makes its way through, I think, in my poetry and how I move through the world. And yeah, it's a whole kind of shift in energy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's such a big change, though. I mean, from Dallas to that area in Canada. I mean, Dallas, Texas, correct?
Yes, correct.
What was kind of the biggest change that you saw to now, living from there to where you are now? I mean, what would be the biggest difference for you?
The biggest difference is I am a Black woman. I am a Black woman who grew up living amongst people from so many different walks of life and countries. If you're at a red light in Dallas, you can hear music from 5 different places booming at one time.
Yeah.
And that is not the case where I live now. And, things are changing. I've been here a little over 2 years, going on 2.5 years. And I feel like every week or every month, my town looks a little bit different. So that is nice. I'm starting to feel a little bit more comfortable. But, you know, for a while, there was a time where if I saw myself reflected in someone, I would stop them on the street and say, hey, what's your name?
Yeah.
There's not many of us. Let's connect. And I found a few friends like that. So I'm grateful that, you know, one thing about living where I do live is that it makes it really easy for you to find your people, because you can kind of like be in the grocery store and say, I have not seen this person before, and their spirit is speaking to me. And, you know, you don't have to kind of like wait around and feel lonely. You can just zoom right in.
Yeah. No, absolutely. How big and what's the population size? Like how many people live where you are now?
That is a good question that I cannot actually answer. It is a municipality. It is not considered a city. So if that speaks to that.
For sure, for sure. Okay, wow, wow, wow. No, that is so fascinating. I mean, like I guess that would have such a big effect on your worldview. I mean, going from such a major metropolis of Dallas, Texas, to where you are, you know, like you said, municipality of Soup
Mhm,
Nation, right? Tell me, I mean,
mhm,
what is for you at this point, how long has it been since you made that move?
mhm. Yeah, we left Dallas. I left Dallas in August of 2020 and actually moved to Oregon. And so I was in Oregon for about a year and a half or 2 years before coming to Canada. So I arrived here in Canada in May of 2023.
God,
And I feel like you know, your world really shifts when you became a parent, when you become a parent. So I became a parent in Oregon, and it was also you know, the waves of the pandemic, the Delta, Omicron, everyone was inside. And so isolation was a big thing. And so moving to Canada after the world had kind of shifted, and by all means, there is still a pandemic. COVID is still a thing. People are still dying every day, but the world has kind of moved on despite. And so living in Canada now as a parent and living in a small town and having found my community so easily, community means something so different once you become a parent. You rely on people in different kind of ways, and you can offer people in different kind of ways. Um, I'm not sure if I answered your question.
no, that's absolutely wonderful. I mean, because I think that kind of that idea of just land and positionality where we are in environment, a lot of people maybe they do want to move, maybe they do want to make a change in their lives and they don't realize it's literally maybe the environment of where they live, maybe country wise, city wise, just
Mhm,
land, municipality, like you said, wise. I think that's such an interesting thing. Um, Now, kind of going into your work specifically with your writing, I mean, you know, you really gesture towards, I think, very large concepts like social change, collaboration. So they're such large concepts, but they're also so minute in the same breath. You know, and that idea of world building and these relationships that we have with the things around us. You know, tell me, how do you kind of balance that closeness and intimacy of the word, of the spoken word, of the poetry, of the writing, with really what is the urgency of collective action of how this world needs to change. So it's literally,
mhm,
you have such an intimate relationship with your writings, but you're still dealing with these very, very bigger concepts. You know, someone that seems so locked in with the kind of synchronization of themselves, the duality, the multiple identities that you hold. How do you kind of remain intimate to that, but also addressing these very large issues that are not one sided?
mhm. Yes, there is this thing that has been floating around the internet the last few years called the social change ecosystem map. It's by Deepa, and it has a kind of outline of 10 different roles that people can inhabit. And the thing I find about these roles is you can inhabit more than one of them at the same time, and you can move between them. You know, everything is fluid. And so I think it really details the way that each person, every single person,
Yeah.
has a way to contribute to this time. So I am a poet, I am a writer. So my first and foremost, it's like I am the storyteller, right? But as a storyteller, you know, in one poem, I am a disruptor. In another poem, I am the healer. In another poem, I am a visionary. And so one thing I think that poetry and the word has the power to accomplish in this moment of collective action is like moving people toward action, right? Like if people don't have the spark, then there will be no movement, no change. And I'm also thinking about how poetry can exist not only in unconventional ways, like as the storyteller or so forth, but also unconventional places. So I've read poems in city council meetings try to sway elected officials to, say no to environmental racism, get rid of this shingle mountain in the Black neighborhood. It didn't work. It wasn't my poem that moved the mountain. But, there is a reason that across the world and throughout history, poets and writers of all kinds have been the first ones to be targeted. Like, yes. There is a reason that journalists in Gaza are being targeted right now. It's because their stories are so important. And systems in power fear that. They fear that's why there's book bans right now, right? That's why they're trying to control what people can put in their mind, because the first step to changing anything starts right here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that idea though, of just us as people. There's just a role we all can play. No one role is bigger than others. We all kind of just have to find whatever those gifts and talents are. I'm curious for you. I mean, how did you find out that writing and poetry was, and like you said, storytelling? How did that kind of come across for you where you're like, this is where I'm at? What really, was it a moment in time that something snapped for you, or was it just over time you realized this is what you kept coming back to, what you're being called to?
Mm-hmm. I think that I am blessed to have the mother who I had, and she supported me in so many ways of me becoming who I am right now. She read to me every single night on nights, and she was a nurse. And for many spans of my childhood, she was also a single mom, right? So like I had a babysitter, I had Miss Ivy. And on nights when my mom was working that 12-hour nursing shift, Miss Ivy would just hit play on an old school tape recorder, and I would hear my mother's voice speaking right where we left off in the story from the previous night. And whenever I was in middle school, my mom found this place called Impressions Teen Magazine. And I remember seeing, the high schoolers, and they were the editor-in-chief. And I was like, oh, I want to do that one day. And then one day I did, I stuck with it until we left Florida in ninth grade, after ninth grade. And, whenever poetry was introduced in school in fourth grade, that was it. I was like, okay, this is my thing. Here I am. Wow. And, I always had a journal as a kid and into adults. Like I have just like shelves of my journals since high school.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so it's definitely for you. Do you feel it's been a calling throughout your life?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Now, kind of speaking of your writings, so I love, first and foremost, your chapbook, Everything Good is Dying. I love that title, and I want to know where the inspiration of that title came from. The gravity of that is so, it's so big. Everything Good is Dying. But your chapbooks, Everything Good is Dying and Moon Woman, now you hold grief and imagination. So holding grief as well as creativity, I look at it side by side. I mean, how do you approach writing about loss, which is it's a universal theme, but literally every person experiences grief differently, but how do you kind of balance that without letting it eclipse the ideas that you have as a creator of joy, possibility, so let's first off start off with that. I mean, how do you balance grief, creativity, and joy side by side in your writings?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you ask about the title, Everything Good is Dying, I had three kind of options for how to title that chapbook. And I spoke them to a friend. I was like, how do I decide? What do you think? And that friend is Jess Garland. She is an amazing musician in Dallas, an amazing Black woman who plays the harp and can just like transport you. And she also knows my soul. And when I told her those options, she's like, Everything Good is Dying. That's you, girl. Mm-hmm. And here we are now. And so when you ask about balancing joy and grief through the creative process and how I don't let loss eclipse joy, I think I often do. I think they live side by side. And I think that especially right now, this is a time of extreme loss. Yeah. We are living in a time of genocide carried out with impunity and supported by the world's most powerful, and they are doing it with our tax dollars. And I think the appropriate response for any empathetic being who sees the reality of our world is to live very closely to grief and rage. You know, in 1961, James Baldwin said, to be a Negro in this country and to be relatively conscious is to be in a state of constant rage. And that is not old, that is the same. And to be anyone with open eyes is to be full of rage, carried out, as Baldwin said, with the most criminal indifference. And so even alongside all of this, you know, there is joy. There is my oldest daughter using a new word correctly for the first time. There is the music of the ocean. And a common experience I have is that in these moments when I feel the most joy, 98% of the time, I am not just in that joy. I am also in the loss. I am at the ocean, feeling the music of God sing through me. And I am also thinking about the people in Gaza who cannot go to the ocean because if they step foot in that water, someone may shoot them down because the ocean is now off limits to them. You know, I'm looking in my 9-month-old daughter's eyes and she's feeding from my body and we're just in that oxytocin heaven. And I'm thinking about the mothers over there who cannot feed their babies because they are not consuming enough food to breastfeed. And when international doctors go to deliver baby formula, hiding them on their person, the Israeli government takes it from them so that baby formula can't enter. And so in these moments of extreme joy, I am not ever, ever, ever blinded or not cognizant of the extreme loss that we are all living through.
Yeah. No, absolutely, absolutely. Tell me, I mean, how does one, I mean, you know, and I feel like your sentiment is expressed by many people, and I almost want to say there's a word for it, experiencing this duality of enjoying and loving your life in the same breath. In the back of your head, you realize how destructive the world that you still take place and take a part in is. What, I mean, how do you then kind of really live solid day to day and still have a clear mind, clear heart, clear path when you're facing so many painful contradictions 24/7 as a human being alive?
I think if I'm being completely honest, you know, most days, a lot of the days are not all the way easy, you know, like I'm a quadruple Scorpio and I'm a poet, so I'm feeling it. But I think it goes back to something I was saying about like accepting the state of this is the appropriate response. The appropriate response is to have trouble handling everything that's happening. You know, it's not normal to just go about your days and know what's happening and just not care and not let it affect you. You should be deeply affected.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, absolutely. Now, moving along a little bit, so you have a forthcoming collection, Dreams for Earth. Now, Dreams for Earth, you know, kind of going through doing research, feels like it's going to promise vision and kind of futureness, right? Can you share a glimpse into what, you know, people listening, you know, what readers can expect from this latest piece of work by you? And I mean, what, you know, honestly, what dreams are you holding for, you know, our planet Earth, people, your people? What dreams are you holding within you right now?
What a beautiful question. What dreams are we holding within right now? Can I start with the glimpse? Can I share a poem from the book?
Yes, you can. Absolutely.
Okay. This poem is called Solidarity, and it was written in a workshops for Gaza session called Feeling the Body, Writing Through the Body. And so I'll share it. Solidarity. Wind and water know nothing of borders. A cut on your brow is a cut on my brow. We bleed together. Our griefs intertwine across time and distance. I don't know your name, but I feel your eyes. I want to wrap my arms around your shaking body. I, too, am holding up the cold shell of who you love. I love them too. I love them like I love the ocean. I love you like I love the ocean. The ocean does not know my name, but feels my heart. Names can be so colonial anyway. Fuck Linnaeus. Did he ever write about knowing the souls of beings? My soul and your soul share the same cosmic thread. Stardust of your eyelashes forms cartilage of my ear. I try to imagine your laughter. People near me don't understand my tears. You are near me. I hold your hand through cancerous cobalt and bone-licking balm. I try to find us a beach where waves are clear and clean. The breeze threads us together. This is telepathy. We are mycelium spores forming rain clouds. We are roots of trees talking beneath soil in ways no human can see. When you sigh, I stir from my sleep. My love for you is a violence. My tenderness turns me into nightmare. I want to haunt all those who dare unbraid your glory. Anyone who cuts our brows should be afraid.
Hey, snaps. Thank you so much, Fatima. That was amazing. That was amazing. Please remind us again, what was the name of that poem?
Solidarity.
Solidarity. All right. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you with that live reading. Tell us, I mean, I want to know what is, I always say whenever I perform a poem, I perform it differently each time, and there's different feelings each time. What did you feel right now when you performed that?
Mm-hmm. When I performed it this time, when I shared it this time, I think I felt like a calmness. Like sometimes, I feel like that electricity, or I feel like the ocean when the waves are just like crashing in through. And this time I very much felt like the stillness of the water.
For sure. Absolutely. Tell us a bit about then. I mean, so that is from your latest collection, Dreams for Earth, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a bit about, what we can expect more from that collection. Tell us a bit about the writing process and what that looked like as you created this your most recent collection of poems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the writing process, changed a lot throughout the book because my life changed a lot throughout the book. I started this book over 5 years ago now. And, I went from living in Dallas to the start of the pandemic to living in an eco village in Oregon with 60 other people sharing gardens and food and drama. And then moving to this tiny ocean town and, being in a phase of parenthood. And I think all of that comes through in the book. Every place where I have existed physically is in those pages. And also, one thing through all of that, I think I'm holding is like this dream of solidarity. So, through all of that, there have been these touch points that require collective care. And so I'm really inviting people, even before the final section, where this poem lives, I'm really inviting people to consider a solidarity that is not polite, a solidarity that will take risk and break fragile relationships and speak the truth, and a solidarity that welcomes inconvenience and patience if it means living with integrity. And, throughout the book, I just want people to consider love in a way that exists outside of your own homes and outside of your own borders and outside of nationalism and whatever lies empire is selling, to consider a kind of collective kinship and just love for everyone, every living being, not even just people. Like when me and my daughter see someone mowing the grass, she says, "Why are they doing that?" And I say, "I know, why are they decapitating the grass?" Because we want to abolish lawns. We want that thriving ecosystem that can feed everybody out there, So that's what I want for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me a bit about the kind of the movement in you to kind of have that. Tell me, where does that really kind of establish itself from to really want that solidarity across all lines? I think a lot of people, when they hear that word, they start maybe thinking allyship, and in the world we live in, like I said, it's painful contradictions, both good and bad. A lot of people have been burned, for so many burned bridges, so many burned relationships. When you think of solidarity, I mean, what has caused you to kind of really move yourself in the way of seeing the good in what solidarity can do, as opposed to where so many people have been greatly disenfranchised, maybe through solidarity.
Mhm. I think the heart of what you're speaking to is like why I love everybody so hard. And I think that again goes back to my mother and goes back to all those before me. And my mother and the way I was brought up really instilled in me a knowledge that we are not in anything ever by ourselves.
Mm.
So through whatever I do, I try to bring in those who I love, even, if even when it's inconvenient.
Mhm.
Right now, it is not inconvenient to have my mother here with me. She died in March, but I am wearing a bracelet that she gave me, and I'm wearing my nana's, my great grandmother's wedding ring, and I'm wearing a shell from my father when he was in Seychelles. And so I bring everyone I love with me everywhere. And that's what I'm asking other people to do. And I'm not just asking them to bring in the people who they have spoken to with their own mouths. And can you repeat the last part of your question, please?
No problem. Just, how do we live in a world where so many people, maybe the people they've loved have done them wrong. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Living in solidarity is sometimes hard when people
Mm-hmm.
have, slap people across the aisle, slap people across the face.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to stay in that mindset of positivity and still bring the best parts of yourself to the table when people haven't shown you their best parts.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, yes, I understand. And that goes back to collective kinship, right? Like that goes back to abolishing this notion that our family is within blood alone.
Mm.
So your family is everybody. And, you don't have to talk to everybody in your family. I don't talk to everybody in my family. And it's possible to still love someone and not have a deep relationship with them. And it's possible to not love someone who is, close to you in different kind of ways. And I think that's totally okay. And so what I'm really hoping for people to do is like, despite our personal conflicts that we may have with specific people, is to really like widen the circle and think about the larger collective and how we can serve, everyone in our family in tiny ways, right? Like we don't need to go to McDonald's. Most of us, a lot of us, they have very accessible prices and meals. And, we live in food deserts, a lot of us. And sometimes all that's there is McDonald's. And I accept that. And that is okay. Right. But everyone has different circumstances. And so when your circumstances and your knowledge allow for you to make particular choices, then to be a person in integrity, then it is up to you to make different choices. And if you know that McDonald's gives free meals to the IDF while they commit a genocide, then it is, behest of you to not go there if it is within your financial power, that kind of thing.
For sure, for sure. Tell me, what dreams are you holding for planet Earth right now?
I am holding a dream of collective awakening, and I see that happening.
Mm.
And I see so many conversations happening that I have not seen in the past.
Mm.
I see, young people are just continuously flooring me with their knowledge. Like I see people who are 22 and, in their early 20s doing these things. And I'm like, I was a mess. I was just out dancing and drinking and having a good old time. If I was doing what these young people are doing right now and speaking the truths that they are speaking, it's like I had a particular political knowledge that did not translate into my everyday life. Yeah. And now people of a younger generation are like, they have the knowledge and they have the integrity and the ability to like walk through their life with a particular knowledge. And I think that's going to do, wonders for the world that is being birthed right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, moving along here, I do want to kind of explore motherhood. Now, motherhood appears often I think just in total in our society as as both art of, creation, but also as anchor for a lot of women and people that give birth and challenge, right? So
Mhm.
motherhood as both just the art, but also anchors people and challenges people. For you, because you speak so fondly and, that plays such a pivotal role, like you said, in your kind of, your overall, your process, your evolution, I almost want to say as a writer, motherhood is now just another piece of that. How did becoming a mother inflect your creative practice? And I also want to say, imagining just new worlds for you as a writer. How did motherhood really help you create and maybe revolutionize in your mind new worlds to inhabit, maybe new ways of seeing things?
Mhm. Yeah, for me, there is not much of a line between mothering and creative practice and imagining new worlds. I think that parenthood is is like the most creative practice of imagining new worlds. Like they are all interlinked. It's a lot like gardening. Like
Mhm.
when you plant seeds, you have the future in mind. You're like, one day I'm going to eat this garlic, and that's what all of those things mean to me. So the way that manifests is now I am a lot more cognizant of how time moves and what I can fit into pockets of minutes. I schedule creative time blocks the same way that I schedule time blocks to schedule doctor appointments and like family admin. And I allow for space for, surprise and spontaneity because that is required in all art practice. The other main point is that my children are always in close proximity to whatever I'm working on. So I honestly cannot remember the last poem I wrote where they were not explicitly mentioned.
Hmm.
And even if they are not explicitly mentioned, they're there in the undertones. They're there as like a whisper in the breeze. I was a whole person before I was a parent. And so as a mother, I am not only a mother, but my identity as a mother is one that is a kind of umbrella. And so other things fall under that. And I think as artists, one of our concerns is to question. And that is true for parenting as well. So I must teach my children to question. Even if I am not pressuring them to be artists, I want them to walk through the world with an artist's eyes, because that is the eye that can change things. If we don't question the world, we can't change the world. If we don't notice what's wrong, how can we begin to address it? And similarly, if we don't, notice the awe and the beautiful at parts, how can we give thanks and praise and like really just swim in the joy of that and the blessing? So I think that creative practice and imagining new worlds and mothering all require us to question to make something better.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of constant curiosity about everything around you. I mean, how could you not constantly have that curiosity? When you have this whole new being, a part of you, vibration in the world now, living, breathing, and now they're on their own path as well. So, no, very, very beautifully put. Moving along here, so I'm curious about your poems have been published in spaces like Obsidian and Torch. Those are journals specifically dedicated to Black voices.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how do you see the role of those platforms, especially in today's time, where, like you said, a lot of works by people of all across the diaspora, we're now questioning, banned books, banned writings, voices. Some people's voices are being really stifled. How do you see the role of these platforms specifically? And what other platforms, how important is this for us to have platforms to amplify, our marginalized narratives? How important is that in today's world?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that today's world is not so different from worlds of yesterday in some ways, and that's why these spaces are important. I think a lot about affinity spaces and how much of a bomb they can be in the midst of our oppressive status quo world. And to me, such journals offer a place where we can offer ourselves and our work without a fear of particular misunderstandings. We don't, have to think about the code switching, the the like history of the editors. We don't have to like do this deep dive into who runs this journal and what is their historical experience. Do they have a history of demonstrating particular understandings about the experiences of people from marginalized communities? There's just an ease. There's a looseness of the shoulders. There's a knowing that not only are you welcome to the table, not only is there a statement that says we welcome writing from everyone, but there is food on that table specifically made for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Food specifically made for you, your diet just for you, and it's catered just for you. No, I love that. Absolutely. And I love what you said. It's, our world today is not really much different than the world we've inhabited before. And I think that's such a strong point that, a lot of the things we see today, it's not really different than what's been happening throughout history, right? It's just kind of maybe repackaged a little differently, different font on the front cover a little bit. But no, that's such a informed point that I think a lot of people don't think about. You know what I mean? Like, it reminds me of that quote. What was that quote? You can't destroy the master's house with the master's tools. This is going to cause actual great revolution of the mind, great evolution of the mind to really see there's a different way to do things. There's a different way for us to leave legacies on this planet. It has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with what you necessarily create, but maybe with your character. What a crazy concept, but I'm not here to preach, but all right.
Preach, please preach.
Well, what I love about what you do, what I actually really love is your idea of collaboration. And I love how collaboration, when I look at your work, it seems like it's a thread in the description of your work, constant collaboration with the environment, the earth, the people around you, the people you love. Like you had said so beautifully, you carry, whether your Nana's ring, earring from, something your dad had when he was in Seychelles. You really carry collaboration with you, not only in writing, but also in your aesthetic. Can you share an example of maybe a project, a relationship where collaboration opened up your writing to something that you were completely blown away by? Maybe just one of those unexpected collaborations between you and whatever it was, person, place, thing, where you were taken away by the power of that relationship and how it affected your writing.
One collaboration that's like at the front of my mind, kind of about my writing, but not necessarily affected my writing, but was kind of like an effect of my writing, is that of the art of my book. And so presses usually have people on their staff who do the book covers. And for me, I wanted to be very intentional in every part of this book coming through. And so, I've always thought that every art has the potential to dance with different disciplines. And so I didn't just want like an amazing artist to make an amazing book cover. I wanted my friends. And so I invited 2 different friends to collaborate on the cover and to also collaborate on interior art. So there's art throughout the book. And for me, it wasn't just about inviting people who I knew who were artists, but also people who already knew me very well. So they know the sound of my wailing, my crying. They know the sound of my deepest laughter. And so they read the poems with that knowledge already. And then they created art versus someone coming to a blank slate and being like, here's this book, make art about it. They were able to go a level deeper. And also for me, it wasn't just, about inviting friends, inviting amazing artists. It was also about people being part of this project who are walking through the world with the same kind of political praxis and integrity and how they move with others. And that means organizing. Both Angel Faz and Anna Jack Jackson are riding the same wave of collective kinship. They are both doing amazing projects outside of their art. But what is ever outside of our art, right? Everything is interwoven. And so the unexpected part is that it could be so flawless and so easy. because, I mentioned earlier living in an eco village of 60 people that was in Oregon, and they were built on this kind of alternative governance model where collaboration was key, and also it brought about a lot of drama. And so this project was so close to my heart, and it was just so wonderful how free of that it was. Like, I knew that it would be easy and wonderful because they're my friends, but I just could not have asked for a more gorgeous rendering and experience of that rendering coming through.
Absolutely. No, that is such a beautiful, but I think also very just moving and powerful thing. Those kind of, that kind of not even able to really articulate it, the power of that type of relationship and how that can really move you in any and all types of unexpected ways. So thank you so much for sharing that. All right. Well, Fatima, I mean, you've really dropped a lot of amazing gems today. But I want for people that are listening, especially for emerging poets, they're going to hear what you say, and they're going to really take into account that they themselves are navigating multiple roles: artists, caretakers, parents, community members, siblings, whatever may have you. I mean, what practices and rituals really have you sustained to really keep you in your journey? What has really been, practices, daily things, affirmations, whatever it may be that really has kept you sustained in your journey?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, gosh, so many things. What a blessed life. But going back to community, I was part of several residencies, and I feel like at each residency, you like pick up people that you carry forward through your life. And so, in Surreal Life has these afterlife calls twice a week, and those calls are a balm in my life. Some I go months sometimes, and the only writing that happens is in my community calls or in my writing dates with other friends, because there's something really special about like working beside someone and having that accountability with someone who shares your same goals. So that's a big, big, big part is the collaboration of community. And another part is just, since I was a teenager, I've had a daily meditation practice. Wow. And life is life. And, some days it doesn't happen, but most days it does. And some weeks it doesn't happen, but most weeks it does. And if I have not meditated and like done my daily tarot reading, then I feel it in my body. Wow. And I think my family also feels it come out if I miss my meditation. In the same way, like my husband needs his runs, I need my meditation. We all have our things. Also going to the ocean. When we first moved here, I was going about every other day. And it's funny ending up in this place where I live, because I grew up, the early part of my life was in Florida, where I also lived in a seaside town. St. Petersburg, and we lived in a part where you could walk to the seaside from several different points, and it wasn't like the touristy beach, it was like your own little spot. And so I feel like I have that again. And when life lifes and it's hard for me to get to the ocean for spans of days, then I literally start having dreams where God is talking to me, and I hear God, and God is like, you need to go to the ocean to be okay. Like, I'm hearing spirit tell me to go to the water. And I'm like, okay, I will not do this other thing I had planned.
Wow. Wow.
And lastly, just, voice notes between friends and spending time with the people you love.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right. And our last question of the Poet Speaks podcast, we ask every poet that inhabits our show and our space, Fatima, why do you need to get your words out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's one of the reasons why I'm here. I have been in love with words since I was a child. I view it in the same way I view the relationship I have with my partner. I'm thinking about this episode of How to Survive the End of the World. It's a podcast hosted by Adrienne Marie Brown and her sister, Autumn Brown. And they had this episode featuring Alexis Pauline Gumbs and their partner, and they were talking about ancestral gifts and how love is an ancestral gift, and you need to honor those gifts and like do them right by those who gave them to you. And that's how I view my writing. And so I feel like writing is not just for me, it's larger than me. It's not just for me to get my feelings out, it's for me to touch people and reach people and connect with people. And you know, I am a quadruple Scorpio, and I have Scorpio in my Venus, which is the ruler of love. And I think that love lives alongside rage. So it's also in my Pluto, which helps you talk about those hard things, the shadow world that people don't always want to talk about. And so I feel like also it's in my Mercury, which is about communication and words and how you get through to people. And so I really feel like literally the stars have bestowed upon me this astral chart of responsibility and these gifts that I have no choice but to honor and get out and nurture.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, she has no other choice but to get those words out and nurture and honor them. All right, Fatima, thank you so much. We really enjoyed you on the Poet Speaks podcast today. Now, before we end and wrap up, we do want to give you a space. Please do tell us where folks can find out all your amazing work, whether it be social media handles, website. Where can we also check out and buy your latest collection as well?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I am online at Fatima Writing Doula on Instagram and just all the social medias. And you can also check out my website at Fatima-Ayan Malika Hirsi.com. And you can get my book. I hope that if you choose to get my book, you will please go through Workshops for Gaza. They have a fundraiser right now going for the Samir Project, so you can pre-order and order the book there. And that way that will go directly to helping people in Gaza who are enduring the genocide. And I hope to also see you at a workshop for Gaza that I'm leading called Writing Toward Collective Kinship Through Sade Songs. So,
absolutely. All right, everyone. All Fatima's links will be down in the detailed description box below, no matter where you're listening to this podcast. Again, her details and all the description links for where to get those things will be in the detail box down below, no matter where you're listening to this podcast. All right, Fatima, a big, big thank you. Thank you so much for coming through today. We really enjoyed speaking to you.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been wonderful.
Absolutely. All right. And again, everyone, her details will be down below. And everyone, this is the Poet Speaks podcast. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye, everyone.